Hey, what's up, peeps? It's your boy Freeze coming at you with the weekly live stream. And today, got a couple of things on deck for you. Uh, First off, I want to give you an update on Iron Bison, Kill Bison, because I know Terror is watching, and Lightspeed. And kind of want to gauge your thoughts. We were having a little bit of a debate about it in playtest. Want to see what the community thinks, so we'll take a look at that today. And we also want to discuss, as most of you who are on Discord have seen, the leaderboard is supposed to be coming back. This is the second time Space Ape has tried to bring it back, and the response didn't that go over that well. But we'll talk about that and talk about what it is that I feel like events need, um, just to kind of prevent burnout at the same time while still getting Space Ape paid. That is important to keep the game running, and I do get that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And it is July. Last week was 4th of July for those of us who celebrate in the United States. But typically around this time of year is when I do a mid-year review, look at everything that we got so far in the year, and we can kind of criticize it, talk about the highs and the lows of the year so far. So we'll take a look at that. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and go into this week's newsletter, where we will take a look at this week's event. It's called Past Imperfect. And so let's see, it's an Alliance Totalizer, max points at 500k. Some of the prizes we're going to be playing for, it's going to be prime shards involved in this one. So 5k are prime star shards. We're going to have some 4-star, 3-star, and premium shards. Combat spark. It's going to be some total spark chest. And then you're going to have a bunch of alloy, energon, and power gold power cores, so not too bad. Nice simple event for the weekend. And then they got the drop rates. Each of these has 11.11% drop rate, so you can get the spark denominations of 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, and it'll do that for each type of spark. So it'll be spark, combiner spark, and combat spark, which are typical battle zones. So it's been a lot of talk about this week, and to be honest with you, I don't know anything about this new combat upgrade item, but it's supposed to be called the BBE. So that stands for Binary Bonding Equipment, and it says it's going to be a one-time use item that can use on a fully leveled combat to greatly enhance it, and they're gonna make them available during some of the harder events. So one of the things they're trying to put on for is for this leaderboard that's coming up next week, and we'll see how that goes. I know there was a lot of talk between the community managers and the team, and the community managers and the actual community. Um, I don't know anything about it. What I do know is that Space Ape is having their stream next week, so maybe that'll be the reveal during their stream. Um, who honestly knows at this point. Um, but some of the speculation has been that maybe it's like kind of like an ability 11 for combat. So maybe it's like I don't, I don't know. Maybe it's almost like a power core type thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But kind of looking forward to that, but kind of not, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be readily available based off of what they were saying for the leaderboard. It looks like the top 5 was getting them and not much else. They will eventually put them in bundle sales, which I mean, with bundles, they'll probably have a chance at getting them. We'll see how that goes. And they said eventually there'll be an exchange store for the loyalty program. Who knows how long that's going to take? We'll play it by ear, I guess. And if you hadn't noticed, I was it last? I know last year Space Ape took vacation. I can't remember if they did the year before that, but they're going on their vacation for the summer. Well deserved, as we'll see as we look through the first half of the year here in a bit. I know a lot of people get irritated, think that they're supposed to just keep grinding, just keep working on just different stuff. I mean, look, man, they put out a lot of content this year, so they'll be taking their week the next week. So Monday is July 15th, and they'll just be taking that week off. They'll still run certain functions, newsletter, support team, stuff like that. But just so you're aware, Space 8 will be on vacation next week. Make sure you check out all your content creators, your official ones, Engineer Hoist, myself, Soldier, and of course Sunstreaker Waza. And looking at the soccer schedule, like I said, 500K this week. And then they're saying leaderboard next week. So they're saying prizes up to like 2 million. But we'll talk about that in a little bit because there's a couple of problems that I have with that. Beginning with the fact that it was like a to be determined all the way up until yesterday. And now Alliance leaders trying to figure out and trying to figure out how they're going to put together leaderboard teams. So we'll talk about that. But when you look at the rest of it, you get the 5-star legacy on the way. We'll see how that comes along. And another shorter prime shard event, which should be the endurance. I'm actually surprised that it's still showing it's to be determined. So we'll see how that goes. Community corner as well. We got some cool artwork and some action figures in there. Nice stuff as always. And not any bug fixes this week, but there's some things they're still looking at. They're still looking at crashes when equipping combat cores. They're trying to fix the attack and alliance member mechanic and replay accuracy they're taking a look at. But like I said, they're going to be streaming for Space Ape. Today is the 10th, so tomorrow on the 11th. And so yeah, man, make sure you get your questions ready for that. And that's all I got for this week's newsletter. So let's take a look and see what we got in the chat. All right, so let's see if I can get this thing to cooperate. So I see that my good friend, fellow content creator Grim Studios was first in the chat. So thank you for joining, Grim. Another good friend and fellow content creator, Magic TFEW, is in the chat. More recently, one of my teammates in the Horde. He's been killing it too, by the way, man. He's got a lot of good content, so make sure to check out his channel as well. Another good friend and content creator, Big Blade 297, is in there. Thanks for joining. Another content creator, Dark Terror or Mercenary Terror, is in there. So, and Mercenary Terror, as always, wants to remind you guys to like and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, please do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting real close to getting that 1,000 I need to get ad revenue, so make sure that you go ahead and do that. Let's see who else we got. We got the good homie Daddy Pig is in there with us. Thanks for joining us again, Daddy Pig. Let's see. The homie Chris Harmon, one of my first members and moderator here, is thanks for joining. And I said, yeah, I actually forgot to shout out my other moderators too. Dark Terror is moderator, Big Blaze moderator as well. Great moderator team, so make sure you guys show them some love in the chat. Let's see. So we got Blade 19 is with us again. Thanks for joining. We got Trax is with us, and he says, "What's up, everybody?" We actually war with each other today, so we'll see how that turns out. But thanks for joining, Trax. We got the homie E Rods is with us again. Thank you for joining, E Rods. My Alliance family mate Candyman, one of my members as well. Thanks for joining. Hey man, you ain't talking about Cyclonus this week, man. You feeling all right? You started talking about the G2 Megatron skin instead of the Cyclonus, man. You gotta be consistent, bro. But nah, seriously, thanks for joining. Spencer394 is with us again. Thanks for joining, Spencer. Kim Bayano is with us again. Thanks for joining us. Red Sonic Gaming is with us. Says hello to everyone. Thanks for joining. Carnage McAlright is with us again. Thank you for joining. One of my members, C Mulk, says happy hump day, everybody. Thanks for joining C Mulk, and happy hump day to you too. Jackson Bass joined us momentarily. He said he's in there watching Dune too. I said I can't hate on that. But yeah, make sure you come back and catch the replay. Let's see. ROFL Bozo 11 has joined us. Thanks for joining, Bozo. Cuddy Fox is with us again. And thank you for joining us, Cuddy Fox. One of my members, Esclohase, is with us again today. Thank you for joining us. And then Sunstreak Waza is in the chat. Thanks for joining, Waza. Glad to have you. Let's see. We got Big Joe is with us again. Thanks for joining, Big Joe. My playtest buddy and member, Jacada, is with us. So thanks for joining, Jacada. And then, like he mentioned the same thing I said. He said Space Ape stream is tomorrow. Yeah, no, I thought I had said tomorrow, but yeah, Space Ape stream. Oh no, the first time I didn't say it's tomorrow. The first time I said the Space Ape stream is coming, but yeah, it's on the 11th. It's tomorrow. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Let's see, my other playtest buddy, King Grimlock, is in here. Thanks for joining, King Grimlock. Dark Lance is in here. Thanks for joining, Dark Lance. Kristen Jones is with us again. You're not even late. Like, don't trip. But thanks for joining, Kristen. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And we can start off looking at, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the big screen, and we're going to take a look at what we've done so far with Lightspeed and Ironbison, Kill Bison, because Tara is watching. And so far, this is what we got. So last week we were talking about it. It kind of just had a generic everything going on, and we had to slow down still that he currently has on the live server. And what we started testing was they call it like a blinding effect. Essentially, it's just the dazzle effect. But what Dale did is he pumped it up quite a bit, and so what will wind up happening here is the targets that you blind, they won't be able to shoot back at you, and then you'll get about 4.4k damage that you'll do to the final target. So we didn't actually do anything with the ability 11 yet. I was asking the question earlier if that was in the card, since we got one built into this particular build. But I guess we were going to start working on a G1 next, so we're trying to come up with some ideas for G1 right now. So we'll see how it goes. I know I was talking with a couple of playtesters on from the side, trying to figure out. I think he needs something, and I feel repetitive for saying this because I'm a survivability guy, so I always look at stuff for making them last longer. In this case, they got him as a warrior class doing smash damage and everything, and with his health being around that 40k range, I'd like to see something that's going to keep him on the battlefield longer. So a suggestion actually came up, giving him kind of like an effect like similar to what like Fireglide and Interax have. I don't know how far that's going to go, and nor have I looked back to see if any more suggestions came to pass yet. But overall, it's not. Overall, oh no, that is the ability. So he's getting that health boost. So I actually hadn't looked at that yet. So you guys get to see me test that with the max health boost, because that will cover the survivability. They just didn't put it into the part of the tooltip when I was waiting for the ability 11. So I'm actually going to take a look at that right now. Now, one of the bigger debates that we were having in playtest is a lot of people wanted them to be able to pop outpost. The goal that Dale was running with when he was coming up with this bot, he wanted to make sure that the bot still had a low cost. So it's a couple of things that we wanted that we may or may not get, even though for the most part playtesters are willing to go and get, they're willing to go with lower cost or higher cost, excuse me, to go get like an outpost pop and stuff like that. Well, what I like about this, so you got this effect now, and notice the defenses, they are not shooting back at them, so you got like 12 seconds of that effect, and you're actually getting a little bit of a boost there for your max health, and it's going to be really, really cheap. So for me, when I'm looking at that, especially as I run them in a full team, I think this is something that's going to be, I think it's something this it's good to go, honestly. As it is, we were having some discussions because, like, for me personally, I don't necessarily like that it's like a line damage type thing. I would rather see it be like a area of effect type thing. But that would, and I was talking to Dale one on one earlier today, and he was like, "Yeah, that's definitely going to drive the cost up if we do that." Which, at the end of the day, I understand. So, um, the outpost pop isn't necessary in my opinion, but yeah, what it does, I mean, to keep you from getting shot at, I think it works perfect. So, but you can let me know in the chat. And Deceptidog see somebody outside again. But yeah, so yeah, let me know in the chat what you think about it. I'll run through a couple more demonstrations. But ooh, but yeah, overall I think it's gonna be pretty good. So let's see what's being said about it in the chat. And thing is, it's like, and a couple of my buddies actually asked me because I was clinging to the slowdown aspect of it a little bit, just because I feel like slowdown is kind of underrated. But then when they came out with this, and this is, to be fair, this is before we had actually tested it. They said that we want to do like a dazzle strike type thing, and I told them no because I didn't realize they were going to run it to the point. Because usually that dazzle, it keeps you from, it shortens the range. But they said they just made essentially a new element called blinding, and they just used the same type of tactics that you would use in the same things you would do with dazzle, but they just Dale cranked it up a bunch, so essentially that nothing would be shooting at you at all. So for me, that makes the bot really, really powerful, just because it will it will keep you from getting attacked, and it's got decent range. So let's see, let's look. So they asked, I got the question, what's the rank in there? So this is right now he's ranked it private. So I'll go ahead and rank him up because you always like to look at like what the end game is gonna look like. Um, so when I took him to corporal, that carried him up to 42k for health, and I actually don't have any shards for him to carry him any further. But um, when you go do the math at it, so you imagine. I think all of this is based off of base health. So you talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 46 to 47k ish, as you get his health, and then his damage will go up a little bit as well. But yeah, yeah, I think he's pretty sufficient as he is. Anything we get added to him from this point going forward, I will consider to be a bonus. Um, and my feelings won't be hurt if the cost goes up. But for as strong as this thing is, if it doesn't go up, I'm okay with that. So let's see. So I see highly classified says very nice. Grim Studio says nice. Dark Terror says yes. Uh, Dark Lance says He says 405 plus 2 and Pop's Outpost is okay. And you know what? Lately, that's been a real point of contention in playtest. I'll just be honest with you guys because when we were working on Dirtbag, they said, "Hey, let's make this thing pop Outpost," and then Space Ape was like, "Nah." When we were working on or Dirtbag and Grapple, so when we were working on Huffer and Lockdown, same thing. They was like, "Hey, let's let these things pop Outposts," and ultimately Space Ape was like, "Nah." And you know, um, it's something in there where it's just kind of viewed as being, slightly overpowered um, when we go do some of these abilities. I don't think it's necessary. I think that not getting shot at is not getting shot at, and so that's always going to be looked at as a good thing. We did have some folks get upset about the not popping outpost thing, um, to the point that it got kind of heated with the Space Ape team. But it is what it is. I think that's a strong ability. I could definitely see him being usable at any level, and yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, KG, one of my playtest buddies, says same thing. I like it as is. Asking for outposts. Pop is OP. Track says he's thinking about going for Lightspeed, but feels that Legacy Bot should only be 50k. I think that so for me personally, I'm not upset with Legacy Bots being 70k. Um, what I will say is we need to. There have been a lot of times where we tried to handcuff some of these legacy bots to just being better, but not being war capable. I don't like saying war worthy because people will say that to me when they say that, it means, yeah, these 15 bots, nothing else. I mean, can you use it in war? I think the answer for that with Iron Bison or Kill Bison, because you know Terror's watching. Kill Bison will be usable in any level war. I feel like if it stays like this or if it improves from this point going forward. I don't think it's going to get any worse from this point because, I mean, to be honest, Dale has done a kick-ass job with the legacy stuff. Period. So yeah, how the classified said adding AOE would make them tough. Big Blade says he got a name for the new element, the light element. I can see that. And Grim Studio says, "Can I buy 5-star shorts with Energon from the test server?" I said I can, but I said I ain't gonna go do all. Well, I guess I could while I'm sitting here talking. But I think the problem is they didn't have enough of the. Let's see, I'm in the wrong menu. But yeah, so it sounds like most of the people looking at it kind of like the ability, so that's good. That's a good start. And honestly, didn't take Dale that much work, man. So that's a good call. I ain't even think about the using the 5-star shards. So yeah, just under 46k for health, and then like 670, just under 675 at captain for the Iron Bison, Kill Bison. All right, Spec Joe agrees with the he needs to pop outpost. He said if he doesn't pop outpost, pass. Mario Zampiano says he doesn't need to pop. So this is the exact same argument. So just so you know that the playtesters are essentially on your side. These are the same debates that we have in playtest about whether he needs to pop outpost or not. That's been the biggest point of conversation, I feel like. So yeah, it wouldn't hurt. But when you tell me something's 3+2 and you're not getting shot at, I don't know how high we're going to crank up the cost of that ability. So for me, I'm more inclined to say leave it how it is, just so I know that it stays at 3+2. But that's just me. So let's see. And the other thing that I was looking at is this guy doesn't really have a counter. Now, will it stay that way? No, there'll eventually be a counter. But now you're gonna get this bot and not have a counter for a little bit, and then boom. So, uh, counters usually come when the bot becomes more popular. So, yeah, and it does seem fit. To your point, highly classified seems fit for a walk team. And that's a good point for like $50. And Dale, when he first started Legacy Project, he asked me about how much would I spend on an event for 70K, and I told him usually between 40 and 50K is probably I would spend depending on how I play it. If I'm playing at the power level at the same time, then I probably would lean more toward the $50 side. But you know, so cool, man. We'll take another good look at what he can do in a battle. Let me see if I can do like a base trial or something. But yeah, man, I think it's gonna be pretty good. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't gone really hard in any event in about 3 months. I would probably go hard for this particular bot just because I love what he can. I love his ability. I love what he can bring to the table. I might actually. Well, actually, I got to see when that weekend is because I might actually be out of town. And if that's the case, that sucks because, like I was telling you guys last week, Dale says they're just going to add these bots into the regular batches. They're not going to make like a special batch just for legacy or anything. So, that might. So I got to go look at the calendar again, even though I just looked at it earlier in the stream. I got to look at my personal calendar to see when I'm going to be out of town because my son plays several sports. He's going to be he's going to be doing two things. He's going to be trying out for the football team at his high school, and he is also going to be trying to work on he wants to go to this college and get some training for shot putting. And so for me, I want to make sure he's going to be good. And I deployed my combiner way too early. Mm, yeah, I messed that up, but I really just want to kind of look at this ability anyway. But yeah, man. So uh, hopefully this doesn't fall within that week that I'm taking him to go get his uh his shot put training. So we'll be in Virginia that week trying to go get him some individualized coaching over at the university. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying because like this is one of those abilities that you can actually spam until you start to run out of points. But yeah, I like what it does. I think that'll be great. Now I don't have any idea when we can expect Drill Horn or any other legacy batches because they're just gonna add them in whenever they add them in. I think it would be great if they just made like a legacy batch, like they just put them all in like one batch and just let you go back and get them over time after they have several of them. But that is not the way they're gonna be doing it. So we'll see how it goes. And thanks Dark Lance for wishing the good luck wishes for my son. So I'm not gonna go playing around with the combat pairings and stuff like that right now, Tara. I will eventually go and make like just an individual video once he's finalized to kind of go over the changes, and I will note down that you want to see him with Baru and Micronus. So yeah, that could be a good pairing. I'll actually take a note right now. Dark Lance says use a healer combat. Candyman says I like getting the legacy bots during events because when a new batch drops, I've already got one or two of them already. And yeah, I mean that's a fair point too. And that's one of the reasons why I do like to go for bots during events. But I would like if they put them in their own batch. Just well, I mean it helps you when the actual batch comes out. I just don't like having to go do 70K for a bot, or it goes into an already existing really long backlog. Like when you look at the endurance bot backlog, it's it's about a year long, and then you're adding more 5 stars into it. So there's going to be bots that folks aren't going to see for like a year and a half. And so from a community standpoint, I don't like that. All right, so let's talk about, we got this event coming up, and I'm gonna go back over to the chat. So next week, well, yesterday Space Ape announced they wanted to do an endurance event. This is and they did the same thing about a month or two ago, saying they were going to do an endurance event, and they said, "Oh, well, we'll hold off till later on." And I'm kind of wondering why be so hell bent on doing not endurance, a LB, excuse me, a leaderboard event. Now, for those of you who remember, or those of you who were around back when the leaderboard events were around, essentially what that was is it was an event where you would just go out and you move all your alliance, for those in alliance families, you move all your members around that can hit those high points, and essentially it's one big competition where the top 5 will get like the better prizes for, and in this case they were talking about the BBE is going to be part of those prizes. It's going to help us enhance the combat bots. So it'll start off with a seriously big exclusivity period because it'll only be the top 5 that will get any of those BBE items. But I just remember how bad it actually was when we had leaderboard events, like to the point that, so I'm just looking through the list of stuff that Space Ape was saying, well, why the team wants to do it. And they said they want it to be competitive. They want it to be some kind of competition, which we had a war competition for the top players, back in March. And now they want to do something for events. But then, you're in Unicron chat and you're in Cybertron chat and you get a lot of these top players in there, and they're telling you explicitly that we don't want this. So, uh, and the reason why they don't want this is because I'll give you a great example, and I wish I had actually pulled up the graphics that I shared on Discord earlier today. But the problem is this. So take the endurance event that they had for Minerva and Flatline, and you look at those, and first place in that particular leaderboard event, the winning team, had 8.5 million points. That's over 200K a person, right? Yeah, Dark Lance is confirming what I said down there in the chat. It was 8.5 million plus for the top team. The sixth place team was I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was like 7.6 million to be in sixth place, and then that was a controversy in itself because it was like, hey man, we should just go ahead and just give it to these guys. And you know, after the leaderboard was over with, um, Space Ape was saying, yeah, we don't want all of that to be the case. We nobody should ever have to hit the game quite that hard just to go win an item, right? And so then that's when we started going to endurance events, and it was a set point, and you were guaranteed to get your stuff if your alliance uh, met the thresholds for the 4 star and for the 5 star. So now, and I say all of this because Now we just got finished talking about this combat that we're gonna have in there, and the combat is technically supposed to be the top prize. And granted, there's been minor changes to this combat, so they just bumped up his reflection a little bit. But the combat that we have is essentially the same as Rung and Shroot. Like, 42% heal value, boom. That one does shield and this one does reflection at a longer duration, but at a lower rate. So for me, that's not a huge top prize. Granted, they're going to do the 5-star version. I am happy that they're planning on doing the 5-star version, but you're only doing it for 5 alliances. So now you're talking about doing this for a very, very small community of people. And then that particular community tells you, hey, man, we don't want that. I've even been talking to some players to complete like every event, a hunt without fail. And they're just like, man, like, this sucks. I'm not going for this. So it puts everything in perspective for me that we don't need to go bring the leaderboards back. Um, it burns people out. It's a lot of top alliances that had people go to leaderboard and put up like Jacada was saying for like that Minerva and Flatline event. That's 212k points, and people don't recover from that easily. You don't just go back to your alliance on Monday and just start hammering stuff out. Like, people are tired. People take like a week off. People don't come back to the game, and I'm wondering if that's a little bit too much. So, but I also wonder if the FOMO community, the fear of missing out community, is going to have enough self restraint to not go play this event. And the answer to that is, and it's been proven time and time again, everybody's going to be like, hell no, we're not doing it. And then the day of the event comes, and then next thing you know, you got 5, 6, 7 teams going for this shit. So I think it puts them in a bad spot. Now, I tell you what I would do. And I actually was talking to, I can never think of the new community manager's name. Uh, Give me a second. Callum, yeah, the new. I was talking to Callum earlier, and I told him that I said, man, what y'all really need to do, because in this particular game, this is the one game that I play where even when you pay huge amounts of money, you still do the same amount of work. You still do the same amount of work. So I said, what if there's a way, now that y'all have y'all external store, that you can go get, you can just go in there and you can just buy some of the major prizes for around the same amount as you would in the event, and save yourself some time. Something that saves time. It don't have to be like you just go buy the content, but you have to have some kind of way that save you sometime somewhere. There was supposed to be something that was coming to the game this year, and it still might, because the year's still relatively young. It's supposed to be something that's supposed to save us some time on these events, and I think that when you do that, you'll start to generate revenue, because you'll start to generate interest and people spending in the game, instead of just grinding out every single weekend, whether you paid or whether you didn't pay. So, and that will also feed the loyalty program. It'll feed a whole bunch of stuff. So, that's where I'm kind of at. They are reviewing at least the fact that I made that idea. But yeah, now I did wind up correcting myself on that, because somebody, Dark Lance, reminded me it's not endurance leaderboard. I did wind up correcting myself, but yeah. So leaderboard, the endurance I'm cool with. Leaderboard I'm not cool with. Candyman says I don't miss LBs at all. Okay, Dark Lance said they didn't wind up giving them 5-star for that leaderboard. I know they were talking about it for a little bit. I stopped listening because it just got way too toxic after a while. Dark Terror says he might actually quit if they do leaderboards again. Berserk says, does reflection stop that amount of damage? or you take the damage as well. So we get been into like this huge, huge debate about this. So reflection is supposed to just reflect the damage back to the attacker. So what you'll wind up running into is because that reflection is, and we're still not done with it. That's why I didn't go through trying to show what it does. But what I think what they're thinking about is like something that you can use against target protocol. So yeah, man, you guys be fast because like when I get hung up on something, I got hung up on the name Callum, and then I look down there in the chat and I see that it's in there. But yeah, the homie LJ Gaff, one of my members and good friends, is in there. Says good evening, everyone. Track says, Freeze, you hit the nail on the head. Games are like you grind for something and it costs you time, or you pay for it and you skip the time. Hyro thinks it has to be both, and people are sick of it. And to put that in perspective, I want to touch on the last thing you said, and it's the people are sick of it part. So, to my knowledge, there is a group of a bunch of alliance leaders that is kind of moving around in the background right now. They're talking to each other, trying to. I don't know if they're trying to just set up like a boycott or if they're just trying to see, like, look, man, most of our guys ain't going for this. We want to make one super team. I don't know, but the alliance leaders are starting to discuss. I had a couple of people reach out to me to go get in contact with our family leadership this morning. Um, and players are starting to join together when they're talking about this stuff, man. So I don't know if it's going to be good. I mean, I know the LB is not going to be good. I don't know what the result is going to be. I just think it's going to be one of those events where it's not going to be a lot of people pushing really, really hard. And maybe the players will get together and make a set point or something where they're saying, "Hey, man, we're not going above this threshold." Because who wants to do another? I don't think it's going to be something where they're going to do 8.5 mil again because, to be honest with you, with Minerva and Flatline, when I was going through all those stats for Unicron League, that was top bot. I believe it was used. If not, it was really high up there. I'm pretty sure that was the top one though that was used, and so people were excited about that, 100%. Other than the fact that you want to go get 2 or 3 of these BBE things that we don't know what they do yet, who's actually excited about this combat? Who's actually excited about anything? Is if the rewards are stopping at 2 million, you could just do the 2 million, and you can carry your ass. But who knows? Dark Lance made a good point. Several alliances folded after Minerva and Flatline. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, man. I know people who never recovered, and the people I know that stuck around, they wind up going into lower tier alliances where they just, you know, when I've done really, really, really large events like over 2 million or so, um, it takes you some recovery time for that, man. And yeah, I think to your point, what if no alliance hits after that? LJ Gav says this BBE combat thing sounds very suspect. I'm curious what the apes say tomorrow on their stream, and I'll hold judgment until I see that. If they get on the stream tomorrow and they still don't talk about it, then I'll 100% agree with you that it sounds super suspect. I will say this: it does sound to me like that's kind of the distraction, and a couple of us talked about. I think Jacada might have been talking to me about it yesterday, or a couple other playtesters, but that might actually be the smoke screen that keeps everybody from focusing on the fact that hey, leaderboard is back, and yeah, we can get some more of these items. We don't know what kind of value these items are going to have, and to the point that the apes were talking about, essentially, we're talking about that. You might not be able to use them on every single combat right away, so I don't know. It might be one of them things that might benefit you to just collect for a little while and then as time goes on, one at a time, you'll be able to use these things on each of the combats. I actually don't know. I don't know a damn thing about how this thing works, and I think they should have led off with like, hey, this is what it is. We could have had it in play test to kind of look at some of these things. I don't know. It's a lot of different things that could have happened to make this more clear. But my hope would be that it's more clear before next week. But if teams are going to participate in this, they're going to start bidding now, so they need to know now. Oh yeah, I hadn't looked at the war since I started setting up stream, but Track said about a 10-point spread on the war. I said that will make me feel bad since I did drop on y'all's commander. So and then I actually had to beat y'all's commander twice because once I beat him on my second attempt, uh, the game rebooted, so I had to fight him twice. So I was pretty pissed about that because he's always got some tough bases. But yeah, man, good luck to you guys, Tracks. Damn, that's a good point. Escloasi says that whatever the BBE is, it has to be done already because they're off next week. And I never even thought about that. But yeah, you're right. It's not like they're gonna work on it next week. So it's done already. They already know about it. We should put some pressure on them to go show it in the stream tomorrow if they don't just naturally come out and show it. Hey, you highly classified said my wife said you can grind in that game or you can grind with me. Pick one. Nah, but a couple of players have been telling me the same thing. Dark Lance. They've been saying that nobody's talking about it in their alliance families, probably because a lot of alliance families not planning to participate in this nonsense. So we'll see. But all right, man. So I want to go through and kind of look at some of the content that we got over the year. Because one of the things that I look at is that a lot of people will say, "Hey, we're not getting really any content," but there's been a lot of. I think this year's been kind of content heavy, and so when I look at the beginning of the year, we started off like I think it was like the first week of the year with Predacon Inferno and Leo Prime. Now I do remember in that particular event what they wind up doing. I'm gonna go back to the larger screen. But what they wind up doing for this one is making it an individual and the individual endurance event. It's a good way to test that out. And I kind of wonder why we went away from that because a lot of alliance family leads just don't like having to organize a big shuffle like that. Now, my counter argument is for endurance events, you only do them once every 8 weeks. I think that's reasonable to do a shuffle if you're not shuffling throughout the rest of the saga. But this one was individual primarily because the holidays had just passed. Um, Keep it a band with you. The bot wasn't that good. We started off good and they made them worse. So that's how we started off the year right after the holidays. Probably the highlight for the year, starting at the beginning of the year for me, was when they made this dude. I absolutely love Fireglide and Interax. So they came out in January as well. Um, and that was pretty good, man. I advocate for this dude a lot, and I feel like a lot of the bots they started making, he really pairs well with. Just because I'm a survivability guy, so he's getting that increased health and getting increased healing. So Fireglide and Interax came out in January, and I actually got the 5-star now, and I don't always use him in war, but I do enjoy him quite a bit and try to make some use of him constantly. So then the first 5-star batch, and this is actually one of those talking points that I actually make a lot because a lot of people will say there's no predicting when a 5-star batch is going to come out, and there's actually plenty of prediction of when a 5-star batch is going to come out, in my opinion, because if you break the year up into quarters, 3 months at a time. In January, they made the announcement about the 5-star batch, and so we wind up getting a couple different bots. We wind up getting, let's see, wound up getting Scylla and Ariel, they were already endurance bots, and so they just gave a little cost decrease, went from 5+0 to 4+0. Then we finally ended up getting Brawn and Full Tilt into the batch, and then another endurance bot. So then, and this was perfect timing because if you guys remember, right around Christmas time, I started an interview series with Dale. I did that during my Christmas break, and at the beginning of the year, they were doing this vote, and I intentionally put the thumbnail out there, and I said, before you vote, watch this. And essentially, it was Dale saying that we don't vote for the endurance bots, or not the endurance, but we don't vote for the combiner piece bots. And I figured at some point that the apes would just put the 5-star piece bots in there for these combiners. So players got smart. After they saw that interview, they went and voted this dude in. So they said, yeah, let's go get Sea Phantom and Whirl into the batch. And that gave us everything that we needed to get 5-star God Neptune, 5-star Ruin Nation that we just got recently. So now people are getting smart and they just starting to vote all of these bots in their combining pieces. Um, but then, people still like um, Rodimus Unicronus and Inferno. So, well, that's the 4-star version, but um, they wind up getting into the batch finally after getting denied like 2 or 3 times in a row now. Uh, I want to say that was an 8 pick, but they put them in because they kept coming in second, and so a lot of people were excited about that. I know my teammate Tex, uh, is a huge fan of Rod U, and I had somebody ask me about Rod U the other day, and I said, look, man, if you can pump up abilities and just normal damage by up to 50%, then I'm cool with it. And then of course we wind up going and getting okay, that is not showing up for me. But we also ended up getting Tiger Hawk and Waspinator, which, you know what, I think I might not have even got that one. I think that might have been when we were having some problems with the test server. But yeah, we got them into the batch as well. But yeah, that was the big thing, is getting all the pieces for God, Neptune, and Ruin Nation. Then we start looking at Legacy Batch stuff. So Legacy Batch, uh, now we were coming fresh off of having the Drill Horn rework, which I saw somebody in the chat earlier saying, man, Drill Horn's war worthy now. He actually had a high win percentage in the Unicron tournament. Um, but then we started working on Lockdown and Huffer. And we started off trying to work like a bunch of different legacy bots. But then we was like, no, that's a little bit too much work. Let's go do one that's already a 5-star, and then let's do one that's not a 5-star, and we can do an event for it. But then Lockdown, Dale had the idea of giving him 2 abilities. It's kind of controversial in playtest because he's a lot better. People were debating about whether or not he was good. I didn't personally go for this one, even though I wanted to, just because he's fun. Wait a minute, did I go? No, I did go for this one, didn't I? Now I gotta actually look because I hadn't really leveled a lot of these guys like I wanted to yet. But but yeah, so we're doing that at the same time while we were doing Barricade. Ah man, well I was actually just logging into my account right now, and I see that you guys pulled ahead by 10. So yeah, that's gonna wind up being my fault. That's gonna wind up being my fault if we lose this one tracks. So yeah, then they did a barricade rework, and the barricade rework was pretty good. They made him huge damage dealer, as you can see from his DPS and from his actual ability. So barricade and drift wound up being really really good. So, but then February rolls around. February rolls around, and they announced the Unicron tournament, which started in March. But then when March, and then they also announced Deluge and Beachcomber, which came out in March. And then in March we got a lot of content running at the same time because we got the new UI. They had been working on that for over a year. New UI, as you can see on the screen, the new UI looks great, runs faster, stuff like that. And then we wind up getting that same month a new weapon, which was the Dark Star Saber and Primus Saber. Primus Star Saber. And this is just now starting to catch on, I feel like, because now that you got the 5-star version, now that you actually got a batch for the weapons now, and they started selling weapons in the actual external store. So a lot more people I've seen actually have this and are starting to use it. So then we had the finals in April. We had the this Dark Star and Primus Star Saber came out in April. They announced it in March, and then in April we also had the tournament finals for the Unicron tournament, which the Unicron two Unicron teams were Prime and G1 side. G1 side put us out in the Horde, and so we went on to win the Prime bracket tournament over Canada East. So that was cool. It was actually really, really fun. It was really, really difficult. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I struggled like crazy through that. But let's see. So then that April, they went into another vote for Legacy Batch, and then that's when we ended up this dude wound up winning the vote. And I didn't understand it at first, but thanks to a lot of hard work by Dale and the playtest team, Mindwipe and Cosmos ended up being coming out pretty good. I'm starting to see him a lot on defense now, just because he can hack more than one target now. Um, you know, he's got two different G1s, one for offense and defense. Even though I feel like the offensive one is kind of like the defense one, but he survives better, and he he can he can hack more than one target now. So he's actually pretty good in the outpost. So shout out to Dale for making that happen with that legacy project. So then, and also in April, they announced this dude right here, Bomb Burst and Metal Hawk, and I was all in for a second on this one until I looked at how much damage they wanted to do. They gave him just enough damage to take out a build bot, and that was a deal breaker for me because we kept pushing in playtest to go and give him AOE, and mm, I was like, the AOE thing wasn't important to me. I wanted him to. I like this ability, and it said reduces and it's a range reduction thing. I'm all about protecting my team. I was gonna actually use this in place of where I had Acid Storm, and we just could not get past that AOE thing, and so he gave us just enough damage to take out a build bot. I said hell nah, and I moved on from this one for Bomb Burst and Metal Hawk. Um, and I think this one might have been one of the lower. I didn't look it up before the stream, but I think it might have been one of the lower um, amounts of players going for this in endurance. I see my friend Razorhorn74 joined in there. Thanks for joining, Razorhorn. And he asked, "Is Sludge a good 5-star bot?" So yeah, Yeah, that was it's actually pretty good, depending on how you play. So that's one of those bots that I could actually talk about probably sometime soon in another video. Cuddy Fox says, "I remember April. That's when G1 leaders went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." All right, so in May we wind up having another 5-star vote, and when we looked at that vote, uh, that was the one that Rampage and Slug Slag, for you G1 purists, um, won that one. And it goes back to what I was saying, is that when you look at a vote, now people are starting to vote for 5-star combiner pieces. And I was talking to somebody about this last week. They was like, basically, they were like, well, guarantee me that they were gonna have a 5-star Predaking and Volcanicus. And I was like, how am I gonna guarantee you that? And I don't work for the company. So I was like, look, this is what the apes are saying. This is what they said on the stream. This is what they said on Discord. Well, I just need to be certain before I go in here and save this stuff. I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I was like, I don't work for them. I say I just come there and test the products they come out with. But yes, it's supposed to be 5-star. They saying that it's going to be. It's not even going to be this year. If it is, it will be very, very late. Um, but they're planning for next year for the 5-star Volcanicus, 5-star Predaking, and that's okay. We just got 5-star God, Neptune, and Ruination. I think we'll be just fine. And then that'll also give me some time to collect all of the whatchamacallit, all of the parts for Predaking. So let's see. So also in May we came up with HQ 18 Phase 3, and so it's and what tripped me out is when Phase 3 started. Uh, playtest was like, man, this isn't good enough. A lot of the players are like, this isn't good enough. And now it's actually harder than it's probably ever been. I think a lot of it has to do with that Nexus Prime core. I don't actually think it's doing what it's supposed to do, but I think they're leaving it that way because it is challenging. But then we got Or 13 storage and harvesters that made things a little bit easier. Combiner beacon upgrade. And then they upgraded the MDS. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good upgrade when you go upgrade MDS and give it a lot of health and a lot of DPS. And then yeah, it made it a little bit more challenging. You added a new beam laser in there. I could have did with or without that, but all right, that works. And then they finally added those 2 additional mines. So now you got 6 of the mines. And then you actually added more or upgraded the spider mines as well. So the spider mines didn't work immediately. So people were upgrading them and they didn't work right away. So for me, Kristen asked, how many I need for Predaking? I need 3 total for Predaking. So for the 5-star version at least. So I got them all the way. At least I do have them at level 25 already, my 4-star. So when it does come to that point, it's just going to be a lot of hunting. And I think that that's one of the key changes. I mean, that's key things that's going to make getting 5-stars difficult. You're going to have to go in some old batches and get a bunch of stuff you don't want if you don't already have it. That's another thing. Speaking of which, another thing that made it that made Phase 3 kind of crazy is you wind up getting that 5th outpost bot. And I mean, the 5th outpost bot hasn't made things as bad as I thought it was going to be. What I think it did is it allowed people to have an outpost bot closer to the middle of the battlefield and still spread your other outpost bots out. I was against it before, I was for it now. I like it. So, but then we wind up getting some prime cores as well with Nexus, Solus, and Onyx. And then we wind up getting some building cores with Waterproof Dome, antidote zone, fireproof dome, and then they reworked the anti-air cores so that you can actually shoot people on the ground. Actually, that's not the right core. That's laser ricochet. Yeah, so that you can actually that does less damage, but it can hit ground targets instead of just sitting there doing nothing. And then June came. Well, actually, and still in May, the new combats were Jays and Barrow. I actually didn't. I was out of town for this event. I didn't touch this event at all. But yeah, so that one wound up being the combat bot for the month of May, and then we rolled straight out of that into working on endurance bots, where we got Antagony and Tasmania Kid, who uh, who I didn't try for that one at all. I was out of town for that one too. So melee. I'm gonna change this back, and ultimately I didn't really miss it. Um, it's a new type of ability, and it's kind of something that I wanted to see, something like where they combo together, um, and if these abilities could combine with other water and electric elements, I probably would have fell in love with it. But I had other stuff to do. I ain't miss it, so um, but June was busy because while they were working on Antagony and Tasmania Kid, they also were working on new ability 11s. So you wind up getting this new ability 11 for T2 and Optimal Optimus, increasing the explosion range. One that I actually really liked was the one that they did with old Leo Zach. Yeah, there he is, the 5-star. They did an ability 11 for him. They give him a little bit more regen when he uses his ability. So Leo Zach and Scatter Shot got that. Uh, then I actually, right as I was moving them to my war team, they got they did one for Thundercracker and Silverbolt. Let them hit 2 targets with this EMP, and that works out really well. They did one for Crankcase. They actually just recently fixed the one for Crankcase because we were telling them the whole time that we wanted him to do uh, his like actual AOE range for his for Crankcase and Hoist, but they gave him casting range, and I was like, well, if the circle, his healing circle is really small, the casting range doesn't matter, so they wind up adjusting that, I believe. But good set of ability 11s, honestly, because then they gave a pretty good one for Acid Storm and Slingshot, allowing them to basically allowing the fire to spread if he destroyed the target. And then last month we also got, like I mentioned earlier, the 5-star God Neptune and Ruin Nation. So yeah, so it's been a lot. It's been a lot going on so far this year. Let me know in the chat what you think about it. Um, in addition to that, last month was busy, man, for the apes. So they actually deserve a break because last month was a lot. They came out with a new 5-star batch. So out of the endurance bots, you had Tarn and Alpha Trion. So let me go there. So yeah, you wind up having Tarn and Alpha Trion in there. And this did some adjustments to the cost of the ability, so a little bit of versatility there. And they also made some changes to old Junk Heap and Wreck Guard to the cost, and then that actually leaked out into the game earlier. than it was expected to, so they just kind of left it there. And then you finally got Flame War and Afterbreaker into the batch. I mean, they once again, this is one of those bots that had got voted for heavily a bunch of times but didn't win. So the apes eventually added her into the batch, gave her 65% reflection, and yeah. And then of course Rampage and Slug, like I mentioned earlier, actually won that particular vote. Did a decent job. I mean, for a lot of these rush tanks, they made them the same early in the game, so it's kind of hard to just change them. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Dirtbag and Grapple, who almost didn't make the batch. I had actually got on the stream and I was like, "Look, man, they talking about not putting these dudes in the batch." Um, Turns out this entire time that there was some adjustments they had to make in the tooltip, but there's some adjustments they had to make to the actual ability because the ability wasn't doing what the tooltip said it was supposed to be doing. So they got that straight, and it kind of sucks because a lot of people that I know that like him, they just gave up on him coming to the game as a 5-star and started pursuing other stuff because they thought that he was getting canceled. But then again, last month they also made some changes to the war leagues for the lower levels. They also started a new loyalty program, which honestly is not that bad. I hadn't made it through the first month of it. Well, nobody's made it through the first month of it yet, but we'll see how it goes. I think that the loyalty program gonna be all right. Track said, "Can I show my sides leaderboard to see how many actually flamed out?" Well, first off, no, because that'd be helping y'all out. And secondly, um, I actually only got the test server on the computer. They wanted me to use BlueStacks on the regular account anymore. But yeah, man, that's all I got for this week. Um, let me know. Leave me a comment. What do you want to see? What do you think of the first half of this year in Transformers Earth Wars? And then let me know what you want to see for the second half of the year in Transformers Earth Wars. And if there's any content that we're working on in playtest right now, if you got any opinions on that, let me know that too. But anyway, I will see you guys next week, and I will see you all on the battlefield. Freezius out.